The town of Plainville. Established in 1721 at the geographical center of Connecticut.
Okay, Robert, on to the report of the town manager.
Thank you. The first item I have is the report on the Clean Earth fire. On December 31st at approximately 2 p.m., the police and fire departments responded to a fire at the Clean Earth facility on North Washington Street. The fire marshal and the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection also responded to this event. The facility had been in a shutdown mode since around 9 a.m. that morning. Clean Earth operates under a permit issued by the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Under that permit, they are required to submit a notification within 5 days of any potential endangerment, such as a fire. This notification was received on Friday, and I did pass that along to the town council. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Most of the damage appears to be limited to a wet scrubber, as well as a continuous emissions monitor and the stack itself. This wet scrubber removes any leftover impurities that results from the burning of soil. There were no injuries as a result of this incident. Representatives from Clean Earth, the fire marshal, the fire department, and the health district are here this evening to give a report regarding the fire and to respond to any questions that may come from the town council.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is ask Scott Miller from Clean Earth. He has a presentation and to kind of give a review, an overview of the operation and what specifically happened, followed by the fire marshal, the fire department, and the health department.
Great, thank you so much.
So Scott, I don't know if you want to, you're going to use that one? Okay.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Use the mic though.
Yep.
Sorry.
No worries. My name is Scott Miller. I'm the Regional General Manager for Clean Earth in New England. My office is here in Plainville, and I've worked at the facility for a little over 3 years. I've actually worked in Plainville for over 23 years. So Plainville, both my wife and I have worked in Plainville for 23 years. My wife's a teacher, was at Roger Wheeler, and now she's at the middle school. We feel that Plainville is our community as well, even though we don't live here. Also on the board of the Plainville Food Pantry. A little bit about Clean Earth. Clean Earth is, we have 27 facilities nationwide. We were recently acquired by a company called Harsco. Harsco is a large, couple $1 billion a year revenue company that does a lot of beneficial reuse in conjunction with steel mills and coal refineries, coal burning facilities. But specifically, we're mostly on the East Coast. Next slide, please. What we do at Clean Earth is we're all about beneficial reuse. We're all about helping the environment, all about cleaning what others have contaminated the world with, whether it's consumer products. Annually we beneficially receive and reuse about 8 million pounds of aerosol cans. About 4 million tons of soils recycled throughout our facilities annually. We do about 150,000 tons of material here, maybe 180,000 tons here in our Plainville facility. A lot of dredge, and we do a lot of brownfield redevelopment. So there was a recent one off of Lazy Lane in Southington where we supported the capping of the SRS Superfund site. So projects that are like that in our communities that we do on an annual basis. So Clean Earth of Connecticut, we are what's called a low temperature thermal desorption facility. So essentially we burn dirt. Not burn it, but we heat it up so that we get the contaminants out of the dirt, and then we burn the contaminants out of the gas stream. That gas stream is filtered, and then it's neutralized in a wet scrubber, and then what comes out of our stack is steam and particulate less than 1 wood stove, residential wood stove. We receive non-hazardous soils, and everything that we take, that we treat, we beneficially reuse back into the community. And I'll explain more of some of that later. Next slide, please. So this is our facility, small facility, just on the other side of the river. It was formerly the Atlantic Pipe Company. Roger Toffelon owned it, as well as the White Oak parcel and other Connecticut sand and stone parcels. We've reapportioned the building to receive our thermal treatment plant, as well as perform. We receive the soil that has rock in it, and we create aggregates. I'll explain a little bit more with that. But we store all of the contaminated material inside, and then all of the treated material is stored outside and available for purchase. And oftentimes we give away to the local businesses. Next slide, please. So our facility is a heavily permitted, heavily regulated facility. Robert mentioned that we have a Connecticut solid waste permit. We also have a Connecticut DEP air permit. Recently, the EPA gave us approval for treatment of a specific other type of soil, which they regulate us there. And then we have general permits for storage of soils on site, as well as we have a stormwater discharge permit that we maintain. And since we've purchased the property, we've done significant efforts to create surface, we'll say, infiltration galleries across the site to receive stormwater so it doesn't directly discharge to the Pequabic River. Next slide. Beneficial reuse. So what beneficial reuse means is we don't take the dirt, burn it, and then bring it to a landfill. It's cleaner when Columbus got here. Frankly, it has nothing. So it's less than probably what most people have in their backyards. It's approved for general fill, but we can't bring it to a residential property. Commercial, industrial infrastructure, we give that soil away to contractors that are performing remediation for backfill. It can't be placed below groundwater. It can't be used as topsoil. And we have the contractors sign off that specifically they're going to be using it in accordance with our beneficial use determination. Like I said, other products that we do, we create process aggregate. Process aggregate is that layer that goes below asphalt. It's where the paving contractors come in, they put stone down under roads, under parking lots. We provide that material, as well as our treated material. We can process and create engineered fill material similar to what they used over at the SRS Superfund site. Next, please. So in a nutshell, real quick, I know it's a little confusing, but this is our thermal treatment process. We load dirt into some hoppers. It goes into what's called our PTU, which is a big drum, and I'll show you a picture, where we roll the dirt, we heat it up, and then the gas stream that comes off of that ends up going through a cyclone dust collector. Anybody have a Dyson vacuum at home? You got all those little cyclones that are in your vacuum. It's exactly what that is, just on a bigger scale. That dust drops out, goes into a pug mill. Treated soil goes into a pug mill. Pug mill is essentially a big mixer where we put water back into the dirt because it doesn't have any moisture in it. The gas stream goes from there to what's called our STU, a thermal oxidizer. We heat that gas to probably about 1650 degrees, where that's eliminating all the contaminants that's in the gas stream. So comes out of the soil, goes into the gas stream, gets treated here, so there's no contaminants left. We cool it to about 400 degrees. We filter it through a bag house. We run it through a wet scrubber. A wet scrubber is used to eliminate any potential acid gases that reform in the process. And then from there, it goes out our stack. So people, when you drive by, you see out the top of our stack, you see steam. When you break down contaminants like oils, etc., it breaks down into carbon dioxide and water. That's the elemental form of what we break it down to. Next slide, please. So this is our drum. This is our PTU, where we dump dirt in this one end. It rolls into the heat. We heat the soil up to 625 degrees, and then the gas stream comes through there. The retention time for dirt as it's mixing in here and rolling is about 12 minutes. Next. This is our secondary treatment unit. This is a burner. We have two burners, one in the PTU, one in the secondary treatment unit. We use a lot of gas, natural gas. And the natural gas is used to fire our burners. So the gas stream will come in and it'll go up this, it'll go up here, come over and come down. And in this time, the gas stream is in there for about 2 seconds. So that gas stream that has the contaminants, everything's gone. It goes down to its elemental form. We quench it here, we cool it to about 400 degrees. It goes through our bag house and then goes into our wet scrubber. So it comes out of here, and there's a process where it's called a dew point. I know you've heard it if you listen to the weatherman. When you drop your gas stream below a dew point temperature, you can reform acid gases. And what we do is we quench that here with a neutralization agent. That neutralization agent gets rid of the acid gases. It's in our wet scrubber also. There's a layer of water. It's about 2,000 gallons in the bottom of this, which we continuously pump through. And when we pump it through, and visual aids, we pump it through, and there's about 12 feet of these wiffle balls. They're called tellerets, but they look like wiffle balls. And what they do is all the water comes down through here. The gas goes that way, the water goes that way, and it ends up neutralizing any acid gases in the scrubber. This, unfortunately, is what caught fire. So you say to yourself, well, you got a tank full of water. How do you catch a tank full of water on fire? You obviously don't know my sister-in-law. She cooks awful. She can burn a pot of water. But this is what we're trying to figure out. Next slide.
Double down.
We have a continuing emissions monitor. So you say, well, how do you know what's coming out of the stack, right? You steam. For every second, every millisecond, we're always testing what's coming out of our stack. And what's coming out of our stack is a little bit of carbon monoxide, a little bit of carbon dioxide, oxygen, water. And that's it. A little bit of particulate, but for the most part, not much. And we have an annual stack test that we just actually completed December 18th. And because we'll have a new scrubber, we destroyed our CEM as well. Because we'll have a new CEM, we'll have to run another stack test when we're back up and running. Next. So the fire incident. So in fact, we actually shut down our process about 5:30 in the morning. Around 1:30, crew began to do some maintenance on our STU. They turned on the ID fan, and just before 2 o'clock, we noticed a fire. 911 was contacted. Didn't take long for the Plainville Fire Department to A, hear the fire, but B, be on site. So back in 2018, we did some significant preparation, and Larry and I made sure that the Plainville Fire Department understood what we do at our facility. So we invited all of the volunteer fire department to the facility. We did a giant tour, walk through, let everybody ask questions. And with that collaboration, we also developed a map that shows where's our process equipment, where are the various entrances, where do we store certain chemicals, where are certain components in the system. Because of that tour, and because of the collaboration, the Plainville Fire Department, when they were on site, they put that fire out in probably less than 15 minutes. They didn't come on site and go, what the hell is this place? They knew exactly what we had, where we were going, who to look for as an incident commander. Larry was right at me, asking what potentially is a hazard in the area. And that quick response, they saved not only our facility, but the building, et cetera, that was there. This is the map that Larry and I generated, which essentially shows the layout of our facility, where we have our fire extinguishers, where the buildings are, where the various storages are, what we call certain things, where the entrances are. And if you come onto the site, and I invite everybody to come to a tour, you'll see all of these letters all over our facility. That way, Larry and the team, they have this on their iPads, all the emergency responders, so they'll know exactly, hey, we have an issue at door A. They'll go right to door A. And it worked fantastic. Next slide, please. So here's the fire incident. That wet scrubber I showed you before was fiberglass tank with plastic inside of it. It was a big kind of a melted mess, which is really what caused the fire. It's funny how the bottom 12 feet didn't burn. Again, we keep about 4 feet of water in there. When the fire department came in and was dumping water out of the 2 ladders, they filled it up to 12 feet. And then it stopped, they put the fire right out. The water that we have in here, some people are concerned, well, what was in the water? We keep it a pH of 8. So what that means in chemistry is that the water that comes out of your tap is a pH of 7, right? So it's not really that, you'll say basic caustic. The stuff that we use in there, sodium hydroxide, is like baking soda, right? It's essentially harmless. And with the 2,000 gallons we have, and the 500,000 gallons they seem to have dumped onto our fire, it was definitely neutralized. So it was Plainville, Farmington, and Bristol, and everybody brought water from all over the world that dumped it over there. Next slide, please. Well, we recently, during the fire, one of our guy wires on our stack let go, so we were leaning. And to get fire investigators and everybody in there, we had to go and take the stack down. Friday before noon, we had a rigging company on site. They were kind enough to take some pictures. They had a guy up in a man basket taking some pictures, but you can see looking down, we only had a little bit of damage to these membrane roofs. Again, these are all rubber membrane. So if they had caught fire and burned, if this was at 2 o'clock in the morning, we would have lost the whole building. And it would have been crazy. You can see our scrubber melted down in here, and then that meets up to the bottom of our stack. So the stack is now gone. Next slide. So that's it. That's all I have. So if you have any questions, absolutely willing to respond.
I have a question. How many employees do you have over there?
We have about 25 employees.
Wait.
About 40.
You don't respond.
We're going to actually,
Council at that.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The questions are going to be coming from the town council right now. If there's other questions afterwards, we can try to address those for you. But it's now for the council to ask questions of Mr. Miller. So I open it to the council. Are there any questions or comments you'd like to put forward?
Just a very basic question, and I think I understand this, but I want to confirm it. You had shut down, everything was shut down about 5:30. Obviously, you said you were not burning dirt anymore. Was the scrubber on or running or something? Okay.
No, it was not. So when we stopped burning dirt at 5:30. We shut everything down after a 3-hour cool down period. Water stops flowing. We stop recirculating water. We shut it right down. So
nothing was on.
nothing was on. No. So we don't know what the cause of the fire was, but the fire investigators are pretty certain it had nothing to do with our process. Yeah. Again, an old building. There are latent electrical lines, bus ducts, things that are in there. We don't know exactly what it is, but the fire investigators are pretty sure it wasn't the process.
Yeah, and that is ongoing at this point.
It is, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? So who are the fire investigators? Are they our local fire investigators? Are there state fire marshals involved? Who would be doing that?
No, so right now it's our insurance company. So it's a company called FM Global. They really want to understand if they can subrogate any of the money that is going to have to go to restore this to anybody else. So they are trying to find A, the cause, B, who did it or who's liable, and if they can shift that to somebody else.
And do you have any idea as to how long it will take before you can go back into full operation?
According to DEP, they want me to be burning again next week, but that's not. It was funny. The on-scene coordinator called me the next day. Goes, "Hey, wait a minute, we can't bring you soil." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. We can't bring you soil. So we need your help, DEP, to help us get through this as fast as possible." But right now, I'm giving everybody end of February, I believe, we'll be back. There's long lead items on some equipment that we'll have to procure.
So prior to Clean Earth, it was Phoenix Soil that came into town about 8 years ago. Is it 7 or 8 years ago when
2013, he purchased the property. 2015, November 2015, they
15.
started
Oh,
treating
okay.
soil.
So
Yep.
5 years. And up to that point, we had been pretty much incident free. I'm not aware of any incidents, but that doesn't mean I know everything that certainly would go on in that facility. So was this, in your estimation, something of an unusual occurrence, or is it something that can happen in like businesses elsewhere? Or can you just kind of elaborate on that? And I know you're still investigating the cause, but generally speaking, is it something that happens?
Yeah, so we have fire in our facility every minute of every day that we're running, and it's controlled in 2 locations. And we control it very well with computer systems, with everything that we need as far as safeguards. We have 12 facilities that do the same thing throughout our network. This is the only facility that's within a building. None of the other facilities have ever experienced a fire like this. And, you know, for us, we never would have thought it would have been our scrubber. It could have been something else, but a wet scrubber, a tank full of water, it would have been the last guess of all the pieces of equipment to catch on fire. Electric motor here or something. There were a couple electronic components that were at the top of the scrubber, and you know, those are being looked at as potential sources. Not likely, but we're looking at them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Miller before we have some other folks here that are going to talk to us about health concerns, and the fire department is here to give us a little bit of a synopsis of their role in it, although you did a very good job, and thank you for mentioning the work that they have been doing with you as ongoing. So if you don't have any other questions for Mr. Miller, shall we continue on with some of the other folks?
Yeah. My last comment is the emergency services in Plainville did an extraordinary job helping us with our facility, and super appreciate that.
Great. They're here to hear that, so we thank you for that. Robert, what would you like to do next?
I was going to ask the
Do you wanna
Fire
have Shane
Marshal,
speak,
Larry
or-
Sutherland, to step up. Fire Marshal.
Okay.
I know that he's working with the insurance companies too to try to determine the cause, and that all has to be reported to DEEP as well.
Hello once again. This report I have is very, very preliminary. It's going to be some time before we conclude it with the insurance companies and Scott. So I'll just brief you on what's going on. The fire department responded to the incident of fire at 58 North Washington Street on December 31st, 2019 at 13:57 hours. On arrival, substantial flame and black smoke was exhausting from the top of the 88-foot high smokestack. The top of the stack is from land grade is approximately 122 feet. Fire department connected to 2 fire hydrants, one located in the front of 57 North Washington Street and the other at the Clean Earth Field Office. The private hydrant was installed as requested by this office in cooperation with David Green, the original owner. Fire department operations continued with master stream hand lines and ladder towers from Farmington and Plainville. The fire was extinguished and the overhaul of the burned equipment was completed. The fire was contained primarily to the 40-foot high, 12-foot diameter fiberglass scrubber. It was found that some water was contained within the bottom of the scrubber to approximately 12 feet deep. During the plant operation, there is normally 4 feet of water in a tank. DEP Officer Thigpen was briefed by Clean Earth Manager Scott Miller on the products that are on site in the area of the scrubber tank. It was determined that there was a 200-gallon plastic carboy with a small amount of sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is known as a caustic soda that has a variety of uses, including manufacturing, paper, textiles, drinking water, soaps, and detergents, and as a drain cleaner. Adjacent to the scrubber equipment, there is a nitrogen tank that is used in the operation. This tank was not exposed to the fire. The fire is currently being investigated by the insurer of Clean Earth and in conjunction with my office. On this date, January 6, 2020, investigation is active, and therefore no further information will be communicated regarding the origin and cause of the fire. That's all I have today.
Larry, any questions for Larry yet? No? Okay.
Next, I was going to ask the fire department representatives, Tommy Moschini, to step up.
Good evening, Council. My name is Tom Machini. I'm the Deputy Fire Chief of Plainville Fire Department. At this time, when the call came in, I was in Southington. Looked up and noticed that we were going to be there for a while. En route to the fire, I was contacting with dispatch to notify mutual aid. Mutual aid is agreement with other towns that we can use for our satisfaction in helping us put the fire out. We called in Bristol. Farmington came in with an engine and a ladder. Bristol came in with an engine. Southington came in with an engine to stand by our station to take care of any other fires. At this time, I got on scene, called a working fire, and then I had to do my 360 accountability to see what we were up against. There's quite a bit of fire in there at first. Had to call the police department to block the traffic because we were going to use the hydrant right across the street. Started the initial attack in the A side of the building with a 2.5-inch hand line while the aerials were setting up. I knew exactly where to set the ladder up because of the training that we have done with them last year. We knew where these pieces were. We know where our piece of apparatus have to be. So meeting with Scott and Larry, we decided we call the DEP, get them involved. They were called within the first half hour, 15 minutes into the scene. Well, our guys started fire suppression through 2 aerials and 2 hand lines of 2.5-inch hose. While the fire suppression was going on, we met with the DEP. They did their size up and said there was no hazards of health at this time. At no time at all was the town in any kind of hazard with either the smoke or any fumes from that system. That's our first main. If there was, then we would use the reverse 911 activation, and we would have been starting on a larger scope. We were starting on evacuation if needed. It wasn't needed. Sigh of relief. We went out and put the fire out. Fire was out probably within a half hour. We had it under control. With that, you saw with that size of furnace he had, I call it a furnace, had to be cut apart. We spent 3 to 5 hours cutting that apart to make sure the fire was out before we left. We got in roughly 1:32. We left at 8:30 at night. Back to the firehouse, we spent another hour and a half washing the equipment, get the hose. We used approximately 2,500 feet of hose. That's hydrant line and hand lines. The guys did a great job. I couldn't ask for them to do a better job. The training was so important at this time. We had AMR on standby, which we usually do for our protection. Things went well. Didn't scope them to a large scale, but by calling mutual aid, I wasn't going to wait for that to happen. So we called mutual aid early in the site, so we don't have to wait for them to get there later on. That was about it. Like I said, the fire went out with water. We didn't need foam. Thought about it for a minute, but the quickest and fastest way is to put water on it. And then you could see as soon as you put the water on it that it did start to subside right there. And I think that's about it. I just can't praise. I'd like to thank the police department for their help. They did a fantastic job just shutting the street down, letting us do what we have to do. And it makes our job a lot easier, my job a lot easier when I got cooperation like that from other agencies. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Machini? You know, as that was evolving, there was a lot of social media going on, of course, as our life is that. It's all about social media. And there were the video of the stack, and it looked like there were flames coming out of the stack.
Yes, there was.
Is that accurate to say?
Yes, absolutely. I saw it from the town, from just over the town line in Southington. You could actually see it. With the actual smoke was igniting itself on its way out. So if anything good happened, that's what you want to happen. The smokestack can find that fire to that little area and went straight up instead of burning outward. Like he said, it didn't burn the roof hardly at all. And with quick aggressive attack like our guys do, it made a world of difference.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks.
Could ask Shane Lockwood, who's the health
Okay.
director, to give a brief report as well.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be batting cleanup after these three other gentlemen. They did a great job with this. So from a health department point of view, after the fire, I've spoken to DEP, town manager, fire department, fire marshal, and Clean Earth regarding that. I actually spoke to DEP again today just to make sure there's no concerns after the initial assessment. They have none. The quickness, the condition of that day, they have absolutely no concerns regarding this. They're not planning anything in the future. No public health concerns from my point. I think it was a great response. The training that went into this, I was over there again today. We looked at the training that they've done before, and for the efficiency of the fire department getting there, they saved not only the business, but they also saved probably a bigger issue that might have happened. But from my end right now, there's no public health concerns, DEP, no public health concerns. And like I said, this was a great example of industry and government working together, training, spending time together, and potentially avoiding a disaster down the road. So, like I said, overall, I thought it was a great job by everybody. Sure.
Are there any follow-up protocols that you have to do in coordination with DEP or anything
Not
forward?
from the health point of view. They've
Yep.
closed this out. They have no concerns. They're not going back there. There's no additional testing that they recommended that they're going to do. From my end, I walked the property today. There was absolutely no concerns on my part.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Shane? Okay,
Thank you.
Anybody else, Robert?
That was all I was going to call. That was all we had on the report on the fire.
I want to thank you for bringing all the involved parties together this evening. As we all know, that was a unique incident to occur in Plainville, and I can recall several years ago, when Phoenix Soil was coming to Plainville, there were concerns about health issues and about things going up in the air and about how this is going to affect our community. And a lot of people were very concerned about what went on down there. And Mr. Green at the time was very patient. We had a public information session where a number of people came to our library, and he explained the operation. He opened his doors to anybody that wanted to come to the facility for a tour. The council at the time went for a tour, and we learned how all of that works down there. And, so Phoenix Soil now, Clean Earth, has been part of our community for a number of years. So I do appreciate the follow-up tonight, because that's important for everybody in Plainville and beyond to understand what happened. I'm sure at some point you'll have the absolute pinpoint, the failure or the cause that occurred there. But at this point, it is reassuring to know that the health factors have been addressed, and DEP is signed off on this. And I know that your industry is very heavily regulated. It was explained to us when Phoenix Soil came to Plainville that there are a number of everyday reporting issues that go on, and it is very closely monitored. And I'm sure that will continue to be the case, so that you can stay in operation and you can have the proper permits. So I do want to thank our fire department, our fire marshal, Shane, Mr. Miller, for coming here tonight. It's important that our community knows what happened, what was done to suppress the fire, what was done to evaluate any health and safety concerns to our community. And we'll look forward to having the final analysis once certainly you've gone through all of what you have to do to complete it. So thank you very much, all of you, for coming tonight and explaining it to us. If there are no other questions for our guests, Robert, we'll move on.
Well, what I would suggest is.
I'm sorry, Rosemary.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to
Sure.
say once again, thank you to everybody. I had a lot of questions written down. Many of them were answered as you spoke. Certainly, one of them was, what does DEEP have any further role in determining whether there was a health hazard? I was glad to hear that it's closed out. Also, it will be interesting and important to see what the investigation does determine. I was also happy to see in Mr. Miller, in your letter to Mr. Eisner at DEEP, that you referenced not only determining the cause of the fire, but also the required steps to prevent reoccurrences of the fire. And I just wanted to point that out to everybody who is here, because that is obviously important as well.
Don't want to live through that again.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any comments?